A picture says 1,000 words, and every picture tells a story. As an artist, it's your job to choose those 1,000 words and to create that story. Uh, so, to do that, you have to think about many different things. And yes, I'm in Minecraft if you found me off of YouTube search. And if you paint, or if you like to draw, or if you build in Minecraft, this is the video for you. And I guess only way you'll be able to find out is if you watch the video. So let's continue on. So first, what I did was I got reference pictures and photos. May sound like, well, how does that have to do anything with building a story or creating a story? Well, for me, that's how I began. So this is how I will be going over it, and at the end, I'll hopefully be describing some more. So I got a bunch of reference photos so I could get the idea for the shape. I began with the shape, and then which I'll be going over about the shape and my full process of how I created this after I finish up the thing about how to create a story. So stay tuned for that. But I first created the terraforming or the landscape by looking at some of these pictures that I found, and the one that caught my eye was there was a plateau with a house on top of it, or a castle with a natural bridge over the ground, which there was supposed to be a house up here. It's just I built the house too big, so I did this instead. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on this, way too much. So first I created the terraforming itself, as I said. From the inspiration I got from the reference picture, all out of one color, but I'll leave that for later. So once I got that plateau and I was going to put the house on there, I realized it's too big. So then I had to create a different story. For the house, I was going to say that the story was on the edge. That was going to be the title of this build, was on the edge, because the house is on the edge. The house was going to be medium sized, supposed to be like half this, like this big. But let's say it didn't work out too well. So that was going to be a story, was on the edge. In this case, it's on the edge, king of the world, dreams of flying. There's those types of titles are the story. So that's like the general idea of the story that I'm telling, is mainly dreams of flying. So what once I had on the edge and I had this plateau and I had the terraforming, I had to try to come up with a new thing I want to do, which I want to do a person. And a organic tells a story much better than anything else. A house tells a story. You can tell a story with a house, but not nearly as well as you can with a human, because humans are very well known for having a lot of complex emotions. So having a person standing here like this creates the story just that little extra bit, and it finishes it up a lot more than if you just had a house up there. A house has too many straight lines. Curves tell stories. Curves are extremely important for trying to tell a story. It's like how I would describe it would be like music. Music's a good example because music has a flow to it. So curves have a flow to it, and the flow of the music, or the flow of the build, or the flow of the painting affects the feeling or the emotion of it. So how curved is it? Is the terraforming really curved? Is it really sharp and edgy? Um, how are the curves communicating with you? That's like the idea that I was having while making this. That's sort of how I began telling the story, and that's why I chose to do an organic on this hill. Well, after I didn't make the house properly, was because an organic has so many curves that it can tell a very large story, a bigger story compared to a house. So that's where that sort of came from. Curves tell a story, and curves are very important for any form of art. Yeah, even music, because that is a flow. So that's how I started starting to design the shapes and get everything sort of lined up. Now, next would be color. So color has a feeling to it. So the colors have meanings. So the color green, green with envy is a good example. Green can also mean money. Green can also mean nature. Green can mean a lot of different things, and using different colors to describe what you're making also helps you to describe what you're making, which in this case is nature. I repeat myself, but that's fine. So red also tells a story as well. Red could mean that you're rich and wealthy and you have the money to afford a bright red dress. But at the same time, it's very dirtied up a little bit in like an old dress. Like that's how you can sort of tell a story, is by contradicting two thoughts that you would have about a character's dress, or like how the hair is, because I believe hair actually does turn like this in real life, just it's from being out in the sun too much. So it's sort of like that. Like that's sort of like the color and the you can get feeling off the color. So you should design your houses or your city around that idea, and as well as most houses in a city should either be brown, or a tan color, green, red, blue, or gray. Those are pretty much the colors that you're limited to when you're doing a city, because there's always green grass unless you're in like a desert somewhere. There's always green grass. There's no orange unless, the desert, as I said. So what I mean by that is that there is a color theory, which I accidentally just clicked off of that. But in color theory, the color wheel has connections because, red goes to blue, from red to purple to blue, from blue to cyan to green, from green to like a lime green to yellow, yellow to orange, orange to red, has that connection to each other. So on a color wheel, there's certain connections between those that will affect your painting, drawing, or build in whatever you're doing. So I'd recommend in the description, at the end of the video, at the end of the video, in my description, yeah, that makes no sense, but that's fine. So in the description, I have a few links to videos that are about color theory. I recommend watching those. They explain it a lot better than I do, and I cannot explain it better than they did. They explain it in a really good beginner fashion. So that's sort of like what I'm going to explain right now, and I'm not going to explain exactly how they explain it because you can just watch their videos. So after that, light. Light is also a part of color because the color of the shadows need to be slightly blue because that makes it more like real life. Now in Minecraft, I can't do that, but if you are painting or doing Blender or something like that, I would recommend making sure that your shadows are blue. That's obvious. As well as the light orange, or adding in lighting and shadows. So you can tell a story by adding in shadows to certain places to draw attention to them. So for this, I drew attention to these shadows because I made these shadows dark to make it seem a bit more heavier and darker in that area, as well as an area for there to be extra light. This is like where the light is hitting it. Well, not exactly. That's just how I texture my land, because it's very difficult to texture your terraforming without making it look stupid. It's quite true. It does generally look really bad if you try over texturing it and making it look really random. This way, it's very organized and method to the madness, as well as this mud. You can tell a story by using the scientific ideas that you have in your head. Well, not really scientific, but that makes sense. So in this area, there's a lot of shade, as well as it right next to a hill. So the dirt that would form on here after a rain would be washed off into this, as well as a lot of rain would sort of gather around this area and flow into this. And there's a shadow here, meaning that the grass here can't grow very well. So this is mud, basically. So this is the mud that's flowing out of that crevice right there. And also shadows. That's what the darker green's for, is to represent mud and a shadow. So you can tell a story by just doing things like that that make sense. Things that make sense will tell a story. That's a few of the words that you can see through this is lighting, shadows, mud. You can sort of get a few words off that, a few of the 1,000 words. Green, red, gray, blue, lime green, which is more of a lime green, I guess. So doing things like that will definitely help to make whatever you're doing look better. As well, yeah. So next would be the phrase. So the phrase I did for this, which I described, was on the edge. First, I did the terraforming, which I'll start going through my full process now. So let me go to the plot 3. This is on the Builders. One's wrong. Yeah, there you go. This is on Builders Refuge, which is a building server on the Java edition of Minecraft. So whenever I was terraforming, which I could not record and I don't have any records or anything to show you that, but I want to show you how I terraformed by showing you how I did the girl instead, because I copied and pasted her a lot of times so you can see exactly how I did it this way. So whenever I was doing this girl here, what I did was I created a stick figure of her. That's how I did this. This is called wireframing. However, in this case, I sculpted this. So I did a really big blob of what I wanted this to look like. I did the same thing here, sort of like this dress. That's how the terraforming started out, was like this dress. I just created a big blob and slightly sculpted it to make it look how I wanted. And then I started coloring once I got the shape right, which I sort of didn't do it correctly that time, so I had to fix the hips because it wouldn't fit on the lady here. So whenever I was doing this terraforming as well as this girl, I made sure I got the shape exactly right before I started texturing or detailing in any way. I want to make sure I had the shape perfect before I detail, because if you like how your build looks before you detail it, you're probably going to like how it looks after you detail. So that's how to make sure that you like how your build looks before you add your detail, or after you add your detail. Which a good example would be, you could also do houses as well. And a good example would be this girl. I made sure that I got the shape of the body exactly how I wanted it, and exactly almost perfect. I want to make sure I got this as good as I could get it, so that once I did the details, such as the dress and the skin and the hair, that I would like it afterwards. If you like the way that your build looks before you add any detail, you'll like it after you add detail. So that's a good example. Or if you like the way your build looks in a small version, maybe like if I scaled this down like really small, like a fourth of the size. If you like the way your picture looks or your build looks whenever it's really small, you'll also like how it looks when it's big. And here's a decent example. So I first created this here, and I liked the way that looked. So I decided to make a bigger version, and it's slightly different, but it's almost exactly the same. So if you like the way it looks when it's small, you'll like the way it looks when it's big. So those are some very good tips that that should help everyone doing this. Now, to make sure that whenever you're shaping stuff, here's an example. You would sort of wireframe, so you'd create a bunch of these layers, a bunch of circles, exactly how you would want it. So first, you'd create the first layer. Yeah, slow down. So first, you might get like, I don't know, some form of a brightly colored block that's not the same. Wait, is the same like this diamond here, and you would do like a circle, sort of like this, and this would be your first layer. Well, maybe not exactly that. Maybe like more like this. So this would be your first like layer, and then you would start going down and create layer by layer by layer of your build and have it diagonal. So it would be so like that. So then you would be able to get the shape exactly how you want it before you start. So how I describe the shape. Basically the same thing. So it's just a slightly different method than sculpting. The way I did it was a sculpting method, which is different than building. Building and sculpting in Minecraft are different, because building, you have to do every single block and place every single thing. So I believe that is pretty much it. The only thing I might need to describe is the more about the reference, but that should be fine. So the last thing is the hair. So one thing that my brain likes is having these nice dark to light like comparisons. So it goes from being really dark and travels from dark to light. I really like the way that looks, and it makes it seem like there's more of a shadow to things. As I said, adding shadows are important. I did that all throughout the build. I even did it around here as well to make sure that it looked like it was in shadow more, including under her chin. And the chin is a little bit off. It's perfectly fine-ish, not really. So this is how I ended up changing the way it looks later on. So you can sort of get the point of how I started to create this here, this whole entire project. And I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm pretty much done. There's a few things I wish I would have gone over and I could go over, but it's pretty much done. I do not want to take up too much of your time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoy the next video. I should be doing a how to build a boat tutorial in the next one with my friend Ready Lizard. If not, it'll probably be something I do a video once a week. This right here, if you want to leave now, that's perfectly fine, but make sure you subscribe. I'm going to probably ramble on for another minute or so about a few things. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you learned something new, comment down below what you learned. If you learned anything new about building, or if you got inspired to do something of your own, or maybe if you decided to do something new, or if you found some reference photos, and if you found any of this information interesting, comment down below which tip that I gave you that you liked. So have a sublime, fantastical, and wonderful day, and God bless.